This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey Internet, it is Tuesday the 15th of March 2016 and welcome back to Party Loaded. This is the weekly support group for video game addicts. I'm Luke Rutalic and I'd like to say hashtag Team Iron Man. That's my position today. Imogen, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Are you going to pick a side?
Hi. No.
No?
Because I've read the comic.
Nice. All right. Ollie, how about you?
Hello, I am a person. The side that I will pick will be Thanos' side. Fuck it, I'm just going to be different. Why not?
Probably the one
I've
that's
also
going
read
to
the
matter in the
comic.
end anyway. Yeah, nice. And we also have Jam. How you doing?
Are you guys spoiling all this for me? Because I have not
No.
read the comic.
I actually have not either. I know a bit of it in passing, but I haven't actually read it. So
Spoiler, Thanos comes down and murders everyone. He combines, he high-fives Apocalypse, they combine together, and then Deadpool comes out and kills the universe.
Oh, I'm going to stab you.
it doesn't matter anyway. The movie is going to be very different.
It has to be.
Yeah, there's just no way it can be the
Yeah,
same.
they've boxed themselves into a corner, big time.
Yep. Which is cool. But anyway, we're not a show about Marvel Comics, despite the fact that
that was a weird intro.
That intro is all about a particular division that happens. Oh,
God.
Because that's also going to be a key theme for our episode today. So
3 out of 10.
That's my best drum noise I can do on my desk.
Nice. Cool. All right, well, we usually kick the episode off with a little bit of a roundup of what we've been playing, which I think this week is going to be fairly brief. So, Imogen, you've been winning a game called Real Life, I see. What's the story
I don't know if I'd ever call it winning.
Well, if the game continues, I think that's probably the success criteria, really, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the first week since we've started recording that I have had 0 game time, no PC, no console, no nothing, just real life games. Because we had our D&D the other night and some other games.
Oh, you got some
in
gaming.
between.
We're giant fucking nerds.
Yeah.
So big. But yeah, no, study and catching up with people. And the last time I opened and played anything on Steam was the 3rd of March. And I feel really sad about that.
Oh, no.
Did Steam give you a big frowny face? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it came up with a little paperclip. It appears you're trying to play games. Shall we remind you how to do that?
Nice. Well, maybe you could just briefly mention what you're looking forward to getting back onto when you have a chance.
Well, Had a Full Boyfriend was just put on sale, so...
That will cheer you up.
Yeah.
What is that?
Had a Full Boyfriend is a simulator where you date pigeons.
It's not just pigeons. There's a
general
whole
type
slew.
of birds. A whole slew of birds.
Right.
Date some birds. It's a weird game. And it was on my wish list, and I got an email about it this afternoon, which poked me up. But no, we'll talk about it more in the news about what I'm probably going to be playing, but probably more console than PC, while you guys are all absorbed in the Division.
Cool. Well, I'll do a really, really quick summary of my gaming for the week. The Division. Moving on.
All right,
It's actually weird. It has been the only week I can remember in recent history where I've played one game and that is it. So it's been actually kind of refreshing.
Did you not play any Hearthstone, Luke?
Okay, I lie. That's always...
Yeah, that's right, mother.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No. I always play Hearthstone, which is why I don't mention it all the time.
It's just your background radiation game.
It's like my screensaver at this point. It really is. All right, Ollie, what have you been playing?
I also played Division. I did a bit of Rocket League as well. I'm no longer getting angry with the game, which is nice. Mm-hmm. It's always a good sign in a game.
It's always a roundabout, though. You'll probably get back to that point soon.
I'm back at that point.
There we go.
Why can't I do anything?
I also played some Gary's mod. We played Guess Who.
Oh, what's that one?
Which is, okay, essentially there's a whole mob of NPCs going around the map, like AI-controlled players, and you have to blend in. So there's a team of hunters and a team of hiders. So the hiders basically have to pretend that they're AI NPCs, and the hunters have to figure out who's the real people and who's the NPCs and kill the real people.
Oh, so it's a little bit like Prop Hunt, but you're hiding against people as opposed to props.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And for those on like Xbox, Thief Town, it's very similar to on Xbox.
Okay.
So yeah, it's great fun. Played a bit of Prop Hunt, and then played a bit of Murder, and I scared out of Jamie in that game, so that was funny.
It was horrible. Okay, so we started a level, and you always do this tense, quick swing around. You're like, okay, is anyone running at me with a knife? And I turn and I see this figure, and he runs into the little cupboard under the stairs, which is a little safe nook that people tend to go past. And I'm like, oh, he's cool. He's going to hide. I'm a bystander. I'm going to go hide with him. Went in there, closed the door, light out, stab, 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 stab. I was like, oh, shit. And then we had another game. I think, was it when Ari was the murderer?
No, the one you just mentioned was Ari.
Oh, that was Ari?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you were the other one. That was even
I
creepier.
was the creepy motherfucker.
You tell that one.
Okay, so essentially, Jamie went back to a little hidey hole, and I had killed everyone else on the map. And so I went in, I was like, oh, hello there. Just silhouetted in the doorway.
He stood in the doorway
with a
and I
knife.
couldn't get past.
Because if she moves, I can just kill her at a whim. I just closed the door behind me and went, shh.
I couldn't get past, so I was flicking the light on and off because I had no weapon going, help!
Wow.
I'm stuck.
And everyone else is dead and quiet.
Oh,
Were
it
you
was
aware
so
that everyone else was
creepy.
dead at this point, or was that just something you found out
I'd
afterwards?
soon figured that out.
That's so creepy.
It was the creepiest, and it was so goddamn funny. It's a good game.
Did Ollie use his creepy voice?
Oh, yes. It was super creepy. And the light went out, and I was like, no.
Oh, sweet. That sounds like the plot to about a third of every horror movie ever. Oh, nice. So I also saw that you guys apparently were trying to have a go with the ship remastered earlier tonight. Did that actually work out for you this time? Yeah.
We managed to successfully get together on a server using Evolve as a LAN, virtual LAN. They seem to have patched the issue that they were having before. The game is still not complete. So we had an issue. 3 of us got on. So we're on the ship, and the ship's populated with some others. And you need to walk around casually. It's a lot like Guess Who, but you've got a specific target.
Yeah.
And if you haven't met them yet, you don't know what they look like. You have a name. So you've got to try and, I don't know, wander around the ship. You know which region of the ship they're on and locate them and try and do away with them without getting spotted by security. So, yeah, it's a neat little game. I'm looking forward to trying it some more and seeing how it progresses.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice to get it working.
Yeah, that was disappointing when we attempted a week or two ago, but that's good.
Yeah.
It is only early access, so I mean, there's going to be a fair bit of stuff going on until they wrap up work on it. But they, unlike a lot of other early access games, they have actually committed to a relatively short time frame to get this one up and working properly, which I think they mentioned like 3 months was what they estimated. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but it's good that they're looking at short-term sort of work.
And you explore and you loot different cupboards and whatnot. You can get different outfits and different weapons, which is really interesting. So it was fun just running around trying to figure out who you're supposed to be killing. I kept killing just whoever.
Nice. Cool. All right, well, that's kind of it, I guess. We should probably dive into some news because there has actually been a bit of interesting stuff going on this week. So what do we got on the list tonight?
Well, first up is further on for what I will be playing next week. I promise I will play some by next week. This week was announced that Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition that we've been waiting for since the end of last year is out. It came out on the 11th of March. I was very excited. The new release, the definitive edition, is, I believe, another $9 or so on top of if you already own the game.
Okay.
But the game itself is still $20. So if you buy it as a pack, if you buy the game for $20, then that's the whole lot. So they haven't bumped the price up. You don't have to buy it and then buy the expansion. It's got lots of new stuff in it. Number one, I guess, is it's got a new easy difficulty setting, and I'm going to assume that has come
as a result of requests from you.
No, I think it's because the game, there's a lot of commentary on that it would be well suited for kids, or it'd be quite sort of sweet if kids could also play, or those types of things. But maybe it might be a bit too high level, so maybe the easy level will allow for that, and maybe cut out some of the more weird parts. You get a new move, which is a dash added to Ori's repertoire, as well as a new attack, which is described as light burst, which looks in the video to be basically like a bomb, which is really exciting. The most beautiful part of it, I think, is that as part of the release, there is going to be a new theatre mode, which will string together all of the game's cutscenes and any cinematic moments so that you can watch them as one, as a sort of a curated mini movie, I guess.
Oh, sweet.
There'll also be cutscenes and things that came about the building of the game, and some sort of early content and game trailers and concepts and things that maybe didn't make the game. You also have a whole new area called Blackroot Burrows, which is going to be the sort of backstory of Naru, which is the mother character in the game.
That's awesome.
You actually discover a little bit more about where she came from, and maybe some other bits and pieces that are interwoven that explain sort of her actions in the game and those types of things. So I think it'll be really good. The most exciting thing for me is that this gives me an excuse to buy it on the Xbox One, because I bought it on PC, and whilst I love the game, I hate playing it on PC. So now I'll buy it on my Xbox One and I will play the crap out of it.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about that. So I've got to make up 5 hours that I've already played on PC. So I'll start again. But I won't be putting on an easy mode.
I was going to say, you'll get to that point in less than 5 hours the second time around, I'm sure.
I think so. And I think I've spent a lot of time like, why can't I do this? And then realizing that, no, you can't go there yet. You have to wait until you get this next ability. So those types of things will come. But yeah, very excited.
Nice.
So do you think you guys will buy the expansion and try it out?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think I might.
Yeah, I think it might be only $5 US. Don't quote me on that. The pricing sort of coming out of it is.
Then I'm sure I will.
Hit and miss.
The one thing I'm really curious about is where the extra sort of region or the extra zone is going to be placed in the context of the game. So if it's done as like a separate bit, which you can play on its own after you finish the game, then that's awesome. But if they actually build it into the game itself so that you have to sort of access that area while you play through, then the problem potentially with that is that you actually get to a point in the game where you can't go back. So in order for someone like me or these guys to experience it, because we've already sort of finished the game, we'd have to go back and start it again. So
I don't think that's the case. They've said that it's interwoven with the already existing story, but I suspect there'll be an element for those who finish the game, because at this stage they're late release, because they were supposed to release this mid to late last year.
okay.
And then it got delayed. So I suspect part of that delay has been building in a way that, I don't know, you're going to look into a mirror at the end, or I don't know, something's going to happen at the end, and you'll be able to access it, or you'll be able to load it up and start from where you would usually encounter that and have a go. But I will. I'll let you know if I come across it.
Sweet.
Whereabouts in the game it is.
I was going to say, did you also say during the week that Moon Studios has got a new sort of range of merch coming out or something like that?
Yes. So whispered around has been obviously Redbubble has lots of T-shirts from original designers, but the actual studio now is going to be opening a merch store. No word about what that will sell or what that looks like, but they have mentioned it and confirmed it. So I will be getting that plushie.
It's a pretty safe bet, really, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And if they do some sort of original artwork, I am down for that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, some sort of concept art stuff would be wicked.
Oh,
I would
man.
invest.
There's a good one for your games room, Ollie. Like a massive framed picture of one of the set pieces from that game. That looks sensational.
Yeah. So, Ollie's Googling Ori and the Blind Forest merch. So that's really exciting. And I think given the fact that the game was already so highly regarded, it's nice to see them continue to put into it rather than just sort of let it fade into the distance. So it's good.
Yeah. Do you guys think that it's the sort of game that, like, in terms of where they left it off, a sequel would ever make sense? Do you think?
No spoilers.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that.
No? I don't know. I'm unsure about that one. Anyway, so...
They could, but it wouldn't be a direct continuation.
Yeah, possibly. Cool. All right. What else we got?
Well, this is a bit of a controversial subject that we've been talking about today, but Microsoft have announced that they will be supporting cross-platform resources for Xbox and PlayStation 4, and they will start off with Psyonix's Rocket League. So what this means is that Microsoft have basically been the bigger person and said, right, we will stump up the resources. You guys just have to both say you're going to do it. Xbox have sort of come out and said that they will, but it's up to PlayStation or Sony to make the decision about what they want to do. Of course, PlayStation already have cross-platform support with PC, just not all three. So it's an announcement where someone sort of put their hand forward and said, right, everybody hands in, let's do this, with the hope that this will be the start of something amazing.
That'll be so good.
It's something that I would dearly love to see. I mean, I do like playing things on PC, but there's definitely games that I'm, reticent that, I have to buy it on PC so I can play it with you guys because there's no cross-platform support because I don't own a PS4, and usually that's where the cross-platform comes into play. So
Yeah.
And I'm not quite confident in Windows 10's ability to stream at this stage either. So we'll see. No comment from Sony yet as to whether or not they will be putting some money into it. But we had a bit of a discussion this morning about why it's not come across and that it was a bit of a stupid announcement because it's just kind of like, we want to do this announcement rather than any sort of real commitment. But hopefully it means...
it's Microsoft committing to their PC and Xbox platforms to work something out, which, I mean, it makes complete sense. I don't know why it hasn't happened sooner, but for them to, put in and say, let's get every system on it is really, it's impressive. It's a lot of resources to commit, but...
I'll tell you why it hasn't happened sooner. Money!
Yeah,
but the
and so that's what
potential for
Microsoft
money
is saying. So.
there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's always been that they, in a way, I think it makes more sense for a big PC like Microsoft developers. And when we have this conversation, Microsoft is distinct from Xbox One in this regard. So when we say, Microsoft will sponsor this, that's their division who support PC play solely. So they are going to stump up the money / resources / manpower to make this work, but they need Xbox and PlayStation to both come to the table. Xbox, of course, being part of the Microsoft family. Yes, we'll do it. But then throughout we'll wait and see what we hear back from Sony Bone, which I think is laughable given the fact that they already support it with PC. So
it's very cheeky.
Yeah.
And at the time when Psyonix released it, they said, look, it's going to be available on PC and PS4 and Xbox, but you'll be able to play between PS4 and PC. And at the time, they were asked for a comment as to why there wasn't an Xbox One, and their comment was basically, you'll have to speak to Xbox about that. That was their decision, not ours. Yeah. So maybe Xbox are having a change of strategy. Maybe they see, the blending of the space that we've all been hoping for. And, there's lots of people out there who do a lot of work to make sure that, or to their gaming sort of general setup to try and make it seamless as possible to emulate cross-platform. But this will be interesting.
It's a really interesting space that the consoles are in at the moment with regards to competing across against PC gamers, because PC is a platform that, in terms of the technical aspects of it, there is no doubt that almost every game, unless it's for a comfort thing or an accessibility reason, you're usually better off on PC in terms of being able to run it at a higher spec than what a console can manage. Depending on the PC that you're using. But consoles, as technology evolves, the consoles won't, because it's not like you can just upgrade your console mid sort of console cycle. That's something that hasn't been done up until now. Interestingly, Phil Spencer from Xbox was actually talking about that as a possibility recently. But then that opens up another massive can of worms. Like if you buy an Xbox One, whether there's going to be something that you have to pay as an expense down the track to add components to it and upgrade it throughout the life cycle of it. And
Which was a Penny Arcade comment very recently.
yeah, it's a weird situation. Like, I think ultimately, if that did become a reality, it's probably in the console owner's best interest to be able to do that because they can keep pace with technology and not be losing out. But by the same token, it's kind of not the market that they're selling to in the first place. They're actually selling to people who don't want to muck around with that kind of thing. They just want to buy a, all bells and whistles gaming unit that they don't have to, worry about components and opening it up and having modifications done to it and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Plug and play.
So, yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I hope they work it out. It'd be great for everybody. There's always going to be the dissidents out there that, do the whole, you can't compete with console versus PC gamers for this game or that game. And it's usually shooters that come into that kind of conversation. But at the end of the day, I mean, really shouldn't it be the player's choice? Like, if someone wants to play on a console, yeah. I mean, if they're not as effective as a PC gamer, that may not be strictly true in all cases because some people are extremely familiar with the console set of controls, and they may be much better at it personally than they are on a keyboard. But, if they put themselves into an environment where they're the underdog because PC gamers have a better range of controls, then that's kind of on them.
But you don't have to do that. They've specifically stated that Xbox players who don't want to game with PC can opt for Xbox-only matchmaking.
Oh, sweet.
So that issue is completely removed. So I think it's wonderful. I think it makes sense that it's the PC side of things that's starting this. I can see why it's been tricky for Xbox because of their subscription service. They've provided their own Xbox servers that everyone's playing Xbox Live Gold to use, which is maintaining that, and this muddies the waters in that sense. But yeah, it's very promising, and I'm so excited because even just being able to play Rocket League against friends I know who have it on Xbox will be wonderful.
Can you imagine a day when you just buy a game? Like you don't buy it on a platform, you just buy a game.
Yeah.
And
you
I
can
don't have to
you
have 17 different user accounts for different developers and different download clients. Just the one.
It's interesting.
And I'll do it all.
Microsoft have actually done this recently with, I think it is Quantum Break, actually. Is it Quantum Break? I'm fairly sure it's Quantum Break. So when that actually releases, if you buy it on Xbox One, you'll actually get a copy of the PC version as well as part of that purchase. So it's kind of a roundabout way of doing that. Like you buy a game and you get two versions of it to play on the two different platforms. Slightly different than what you're talking about because you're talking about literally just making one purchase and it being available to you across all of them rather than having to physically duplicate the product. But I mean, I don't know, if you buy it digitally, that might almost be the same in this case. So
By then, it'll be in a chip in our arm. So that's how far away this is, people.
yeah, that's
that
it.
is almost never going to happen in my lifetime.
Oh, he's very quiet. I wonder
know,
if he has an
right?
opinion on this one.
I do.
Probably
I just think it should hurry up and happen already.
Yeah.
But that's just me. For the whole being able to just buy a game and have it across all platforms, that will happen when you don't have multiple platform companies. Otherwise, they'll always want to make their own money.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's as simple as that.
Or
So
you might
until you just
have to have
go-
a subscription to it or something. I don't know. There'll
Yeah.
be some
The
sort of
money is the
premium
issue with
level
that
on
one.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I think a bit of it is going to come down to the game developers as well. And I think in this sort of case, it's very easy for all of the parties involved to kind of pass the buck as to who's the responsible party when it comes to preventing that from occurring. Because it would be very easy for Sony and Microsoft to sort of say, we can do this, but it comes down to the developers to build their games in a way that is compatible for our platform. And that's why it's not the case. So... and then, those game developers will have to make a choice, which one do they want to design for? And it's the same sort of choice that a lot of mobile games sort of publishers make when it comes to whether they're going to publish their game for iOS or for the Android marketplace. And that's one of the reasons why iOS marketplace is much, much more robust than the Android or the Google Play Store. It's because, iOS is simply a larger marketplace and, it's a snowball effect. So where the bigger range of games are, the more customers are, that's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck. So therefore, that's where you're going to put your effort into designing games. And that, I guess that's kind of going to be the situation with, console games too. It's going to be hard to argue for one platform or another if one is in the lead clearly. And at the moment, as far as sales figures go, it seems like PlayStation is kind of occupying that space, not by a large margin, but by a little bit. So Xbox have traditionally been dominant in North America and had a tough time in a lot of the Asian countries, but PlayStation are really competing strongly in the US at the moment too, as well as dominating overseas in the Asian countries. So I don't know. We'll see how that pans out. It's definitely changing over time. So we will see. We'll see. A lot of fun business stuff that can be fun to talk about, but it can be boring as shit too when it comes down to it. So, yeah. All right. I've been really good. Can I talk about the thing?
Go on.
All right.
I'll put your timer on.
I'll try and keep this brief. All right.
Honestly, we will time you.
Yeah.
We will stop you.
Okay. Cool. So there has been a big Hearthstone announcement, or several during the week. A number of episodes ago, I alluded to the fact that there was a expansion to the game slated to come out very shortly. They finally released what that expansion is. It is called Whispers of the Old Gods. Now, Imogen, you might have to help me out here because you're probably going to be a little bit more up on the WoW lore than I am. So do you know anything about the Old Gods in terms of how they sit in World of Warcraft? Is that something that's familiar to you in the lore?
Well, the old gods, strangely enough, are going to feature in the new movie.
Ah, okay.
Because they are the before World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about them, but all I know is that they're, as the title suggests, old.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, they're kind of like a malevolent force that sits in the background that sort of dictates a lot of the big stuff that happens throughout the timeline of Warcraft. I don't know to what extent they're still sort of involved in that, but they're kind of like, master, puppeteers of a sort. But anyway, so this expansion is basically themed all around them, and they are, they look pretty evil. It's very Cthulhu-esque, actually.
I was about to say, they sound just like Cthulhu, basically.
It is, yeah. Even to the extent that basically this entire expansion is tentacle porn in card form.
Well, when you say Cthulhu, one of the old gods is Cthulhu.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, but why just call it Cthulhu and be done with it. It's okay. It's a public domain.
So we got Cthulhu, we got Yogg-Saron, we got Yasharj, and N'Zoth. So try saying those 4 times fast. So basically the way they're going to play out as a presence in the expansion is that those 4 creatures themselves are actually going to be legendary cards, and there's going to be a bunch of extra cards in the expansion that sort of support them being able to be brought into play. So they're going to be massive sort of 10 mana creatures, which is kind of the most expensive to cast sort of cards in the game generally. So that they'll come out in late play. And the idea is that they're encouraging you to build themed decks around sort of getting one of these sort of cards out to basically be a game-ending move essentially. So, but the cool thing is that anyone who plays Hearthstone when this expansion comes out is actually going to get 3 free packs, as well as one of the gods, Cthulhu, and a couple of his followers as freebie cards, basically to kick you off. So allows you to get straight in and start playing without having to take the chance of opening up a legendary immediately to be able to try out some of the new mechanics, which is really, really cool. So they're doing all the usual sort of stuff where you can pre-order the expansion and get a special card back if you want. But the thing with this one is that it is very sorely needed for the game at the moment. I mean, people have been sort of really waiting for a bit of a shake-up in terms of the meta and new cards and that sort of thing. It's even doubly important because it's going to be timed with the format change that we've mentioned on previous episodes, where they changed the way that Hearthstone works with a standard and a wild format, so they're all going to happen at the same time. So people were really hoping that this expansion was going to be the cards are out next week kind of thing. Was not to be. So when they announced it on the weekend, basically they said that this is going to be out in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And everyone was like, that sounds really good. Oh, crap. So, yeah. It's weird too because Team 5 from Blizzard, the Hearthstone team, have essentially said in recent times when the last sort of adventure was released that what they're going to start doing from now on is actually sort of announcing adventures and expansions and then literally releasing them within a very, very short time so as to not keep the public waiting too long and all of that sort of speculation and that kind of thing. They want to be really quick and, bang things out. And this is almost the complete opposite of that. So I don't know what's made them sort of backtrack on that decision. Yeah, well, I don't know. Things change in the development cycle too. I mean, they could have some technical issues that are holding things up too. We've got no way of knowing really.
Even Blizzard make mistakes, Luke.
As Blizzard
Blasphemer.
do, I would rather them hold off and get it right. I really would. So, But in the meantime, there is a fair bit of other stuff happening. So just today, in fact, there was a big patch release for Hearthstone, which introduced some cool new stuff. So we had the new deck slots have actually become available in the game today. So now you can create up to 18 sort of decks and save them on your game, which is really, really handy. It's been long overdue. They've made a bunch of improvements to the collection manager, and there's a new feature in there now called the deck recipes. So if you're a particularly new player, you can actually, it's like a suggested deck creator where you pick a general theme for a deck, and it creates a deck for you and shows you if you haven't got particular cards in that list, some particular alternates that you can actually put in instead. So it's a really intuitive way to kind of build towards a deck goal without knowing a whole bunch about, how to, I guess, build to the meta and that sort of thing. So yeah, pretty cool. Nice set of updates today. Oh, and one that I nearly forgot, they've actually released a new character for the game too. So it's purely a cosmetic skin. They do have 3 of these in the game already. There's one for Hunter, one for Warrior, and one for, what am I forgetting? Hunter, Warrior, Mage. And they've just released a Paladin one as well. Different to the other 3, because the other 3 are cosmetics that you can purchase directly through the store. They don't actually aid you in the game at all. They're just, cool-looking character hero portraits, which change the way the animations work and that sort of thing. This new one, though, is a bit different. They've actually offered it to everyone free, but the catch is that you actually unlock it by playing a character to level 20 in World of Warcraft. So it's that whole cross-game thing that Blizzard likes to do.
That's that hook.
Yeah.
Gotta get him back in a WoW.
So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. Like on one hand, it's free, so it's great. But on the other hand, it's really not free if you have to put time in to achieve it. And for someone like myself and someone like you, Imogen, for example, where we've got a bunch of high-level characters in the game already, there's really a little incentive for us to go in and start a new one just to get it to level 20.
So even if I have one already, I have to level someone to 20?
Correct. It's not going to be awarded as an achievement retrospectively. You actually have to unlock it after a particular date. So,
the point of having 9 characters.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It doesn't reward existing players at all. It's purely just trying to encourage new players to jump into World of Warcraft. So, realistically, getting to level 20 probably wouldn't take that long. You could probably smash that out in a good couple of days. But, when you're talking about a free, item, it's not free when you take into account the time costs. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd rather just pay for it, frankly. That's just me. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, that's me. Hearthstone.
So in other Blizzard news,
6.5 minutes. Sorry, just so you know.
I did good. I told you.
This is something quite cool that I actually really like. Blizzard patched Diablo 2 and Warcraft 3.
This is insane. Yeah.
And the main gist of the patch is so that it works with modern OSs and also on the Mac OS without having to run an emulator or anything like that. It's really cool.
This is exactly why I love Blizzard so much as a games company. They care about the legacy of their games. So
very much so.
Other companies were doing this already. So, for example, the Baldur's Gate 2 games were already remastered and whatnot.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Companies like GOG or Good Old Games, they work to get old games working with current OSs. So I really like it because there's nothing worse than having to go back and you're like, I really want to play this old school game. And I can't run it because it runs in this teeny tiny window at 4,000 frames per second. So it doesn't work properly anymore because my computer's just better. And you have to find a weird emulator to make it work.
Diablo 2 in particular as well is still a very popular game. Like a lot of people still feel that's the best of the series. So
yeah, I just checked my drawer and I still have my battle chest.
Woo! Nice. Yeah, so and just to put this in perspective, Diablo 2 came out in 2000, the year 2000, and Warcraft 3 came out in 2002.
Yep.
So
it's like 14 years old.
I love it when companies do this.
Yeah. So
it is just good.
This would drive me to play Warcraft, which I've not.
Yeah.
Other than picking it up every now and again. So
well, it's
good job, Blizzard.
It's an RTS, and that you enjoy those. So
I love those.
Probably might enjoy it. I've played Warcraft 3.
Convenient.
It's cool.
Yeah.
What else we got? Fallout 4 Automaton DLC is out on March 22nd, so next week. So I'm quite excited for that. So we've actually got some better details of what's actually in it now as well, which is good. So not only is it like a little extra mini campaign they're putting in there, or mission, quest, whatever you want to call it. There's also that robot customization, the companion customization I was talking about a few episodes ago, ? And on top of that, there's also new armors and weapons. So we've seen some video footage of one of the robot heads as a gun, and some of the robot torsos and helmets and whatnot use as bits of armor on the players. So it looks very, very cool. I'm a fan, and the level of customization looks really wacky and solid. So
Yeah, I
there's
think-
just lots of customization, and it looks ridiculous, some of them.
Someone said today it's like that TV series BattleBots come to Fallout. So you can build a bot and sort of just, arena battle with other people with them. Yeah,
And that's going to be really cool.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. So again, it's one of those shames why you can't do multiplayer with Fallout 4, because this would be a really good place to use it. Yeah. Oh well. Question for you, Ollie, actually, around this expansion. Do you know if it is sort of built as end game content, or is this going to be sort of just slotted into the world to experience at any level? Do you know?
I have a feeling it's going to be slotted in.
Okay.
Because they'd be shooting themselves in the foot if they made it just endgame stuff.
That's true. Probably drop their sales a bit if a lot of people haven't.
I
gotten to that
imagine
point.
it will be just like, here's a little bit extra on the map that we left blank. There's now stuff there. Or
Yep.
things will happen around settlements that you'll have unlocked relatively early on, just by like the generic story quests. So
Cool.
yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
Sweet.
All right. So the next news item, you guys have placated me and allowed me to be a bit of a stat nerd again.
I like this stuff. This stuff interests me.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thanks, Ollie. I came across an article just today, actually, which was talking about research into the amount of time that kids play video games and the impact that has on their mental health. A little bit of a background is that's a little bit of what my job is at the moment, so I find this kind of stuff fascinating. The most interesting thing that came out of this study was that they could not link playing video games or the amount of video games to mental health problems. And the study was of 3,000 children aged 6 to 11, so that's a group that don't often
Wow.
get studied in these types of things, and gives you an idea of when kids are starting to play video games. And it was done back in 2010. So, that is a little bit off the boil in terms of what we would now consider gaming. So but that would probably be majority console gaming for those kids. Basically, they found that children who played at least 5 hours a week had fewer psychological problems than students who didn't play video games as much, and were rated by their teachers as better students, both academically and in social adjustment, which is huge. Now, it does, being a stat nerd, I do have to even it out by all those people saying that doesn't make any sense to what the media is telling us. And if you look at the actual study, you have to take into account that a lot of these kids who play more hours of video games have other factors, such as being older in the study. So maybe most of those were in the 11, maybe skewing the results. They could have been boys, which impacts the way that the games are played and what type of games are played. The children are more likely to come from two-parent, well-educated and well-off families, and so therefore you could argue that was having an impact more so than the video
socioeconomic
games
side of things.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if you sort of take all of that out, so if you normalize the results of there was no association between video game playing and mental health problems, which is a big deal. So they've done these researches in the past, sort of research papers in the past, and said that there's no link between video game violence and actual violence, as in criminal violence in the real world. And the only thing they've been able to prove is that they are more likely to have aggressive tendencies by playing violent video games. But this study's basically said that even if you normalize the data, there's no mental health problems being caused by these games, which is interesting, I think. And it comes from a well-respected university, Columbia University, focusing in public health. More concerningly is further down this article I was reading that in these types of studies have failed in the past because they rely upon parents' judgment of how many hours their kids play games. And one thing that the studies tend to find is that the parents have no idea how many hours their kids are playing games.
Wow.
Yeah, so research continues, and I think always will have that, don't let your kids play violent video games, or will turn them into serial killer kind of mantra coming out of the media in general. The report also says, make sure you know what your kids are playing. Don't let them play, Grand Theft Auto, guys, or, as I have learned, don't let them play Metal Gear Solid. Ever. Just don't. And track what they do. But these types of meaningful research in this area I think is important, because there's also now a lot of people coming out and saying, even not just in kids, in adults, the worry is just the way that we live our lives, not just necessarily in terms of video games, is making us less empathetic and less able to interact with each other, which is a worry. We don't want to be doing that. So yeah, so thanks guys for placating me in this area. I think it's really interesting, and especially, I mean, Luke, you've got kidlets. So
well, it's funny. Like one of the things that occurs to me immediately on this topic, and this is kind of like a follow-on from what we were talking about last week, is gaming is no longer these days just hands-on gaming. Like experiencing video games is also about all of that additional content that you can take in, like your Let's Plays and YouTube content and that sort of stuff. It's still video game themed, and you're still sort of engaging and engrossing yourself in those worlds, but you're not actually hands-on playing. So I'm just wondering if they take into account any of that kind of stuff with this study, or if it's just people actually physically playing the games. Because my sons are a great example. Like Ben, my eldest, he probably spends as much time watching games content as he does actually playing. So yeah,
it's how we consume content in general, which is going to start being the focus rather than just playing video games, because we're going to start strapping things to our faces really soon and living in a virtual world, and it's going to be important to understand the impact that might have on some of our more impressionable young people.
Yeah, absolutely. I was listening to a really interesting discussion on the whole violence in video games aspect today, and without sort of going on too long about it, one point that was raised, which I'd never really considered before, was that a lot of video game violence you can kind of break into two main categories. One being sort of recreational violence, I guess is one way to put it, where you basically just go out, like in GTA, you go out with a baseball bat and beat some people's heads in just for the hell of it. But then you've actually got like altruistic violence, which is when you're actually, performing acts of violence for a reason that is driven by the game's story or goals. Kind of like, you're in a fight, you will kill someone with a sword, because if you don't, they're going to kill you with an axe, sort of thing. So yeah, and what actually is the cause behind the violence is a lot more relevant than the violence itself. So yeah, it was an interesting discussion. I'm sure I'm going to be having many, many more of these with my kids as time goes on. So yeah.
We should study them now.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Anyway, because Luke completely missed the really cool segue Imogen tried to set up, so AMD is making a AR and VR headset.
Hooray!
So I got it, don't worry.
No, I got it too. I was just trying to challenge it. All right, so what's so cool about this headset, and is it going to compete in the market with McDonald's?
All right, it won't be a McDonald's backbreaker, unfortunately, but so AMD have announced their Solon Q, as they like to call it, weird name, but whatever, where it basically is a combination of AR and VR tech, and apparently has no tangled wires or tethers or no external tracking system, so it's all in one nifty headset. It will, in fact, make you look like a rugby player after half an hour. I'm intrigued. AMD have made some pretty lofty claims before, and look, if it works, brilliant. I'm all for combining AR and VR together in one socially awkward-looking package, but look, if it works, thumbs up. If it doesn't, well, it wouldn't be the first time they shat the bed, so we'll see what happens.
We'll just be like, oh, well, they tried.
AMD, you so wacky.
It is the logical sort of...
So quirky.
It is the logical step, though, with a lot of the VR stuff coming out. Going cordless is going to be the next big thing, and they need to get the technology to the point where...
I'm amazed they didn't just start there.
Well, I don't think they've got the stuff to support the latency. I don't. So... Yeah, they're pushing to get 90 frames per second on a lot of these devices as it is. So if you start introducing
that's fine
cordless technology to the mix,
you only need 60.
Well,
anything above that, the human eye doesn't detect a difference.
True. Yeah,
I don't know. They've had some medical studies around 60 where it can cause discomfort due to the strobing nature of the view. But I don't know. I mean, I certainly haven't. I'm not qualified to speak about what is and isn't sort of health related. But I mean. More is generally what you want, and whether it can actually be seen by the human eye or not, consumers are going to sort of think that they have to go bigger is better, faster is gooder, that sort of thing. So a lot of it is the marketing. Yeah, a lot of it is the marketing angle. So
yeah,
I'm just getting this picture now of those baseball caps with like the two beer cans on the side.
Yeah,
yep.
That you'd have at like the football,
foam
like
domes.
just two Xbox Ones, like. just in a hat.
Strapped to
And
either
that's
side
going
of
to
your
be
head.
that's going to be Xbox's wireless solution to the VR world.
Well, if the original
hilarious.
Xbox controller was anything to go by, probably.
Bear claw.
Let's go Lawnmower Man on the shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Nice. Cool. All right, well, a fair bit of interesting news today. There's been some good stuff happening this week. We've got a fairly big topic to discuss tonight, though, and we should probably dive in before we run out of time. So let's talk about Tom Clancy's The Division. Probably a fairly important one for us because it is essentially the first big AAA title of this year. There hasn't been anything else yet that has been quite as big as this. And I think the next big AAA we're going to have released after this is probably Uncharted. So can anyone think of anything else that's due to come in the...
Where was Far Cry Primal? When did that happen? Is that not AAA?
I don't know if it qualifies, actually.
It does
So what
qualify,
is
but
what is your... Yeah, interesting
Just
to know what your
FYI.
criteria is here.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think people are viewing Far Cry Primal as a bit of a tack on
Exactly.
Far Cry 4. It's
Okay.
actually appears to have been built off the same map.
Okay.
And yeah, it's come out so soon
Fair
after
call.
that
Fair call.
they might not be considering it like a main title, but it's still a pretty big one.
Yeah,
The Division, I think Division wins hands down.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay. All right. I'll go with you guys because you guys are fan peopling hard. Fan
Yeah.
peoples.
Cool.
what?
Yeah, I
Fully
just go with
declare
it.
that I do not own the Division, nor do I have any idea what they're going to talk about. So I'm just going to look interested.
All right, so for full
In an audio
disclosure...
format.
Full disclosure, Jamie and Ollie and I have all dived pretty hard into Division.
Mm-hmm.
Imogen has not. And as I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it is mostly because you only have so much shooter juice in you and you're saving it for other games this year. Is that kind of...
I'm just saving it for
Doom.
Doom.
Well, sorry, I had a
Saving
cough
all
there.
my anger and my violence and my hatred for Doom.
You should play a game called Serious Sam. I think you'd like it.
Okay.
Nice. All right, but I mean, guess technically this isn't a first-person shooter; it's a third-person shooter, so it's a little different off the bat. So, but before we go too much into the mechanics, I mean, we've been playing for probably exactly a week now, hasn't it been? We literally just started playing last episode. So, how much game time has everyone clocked in? Does anyone sort of know, or can we just plot it by the levels?
Just
we're
under
in?
16 hours.
Just under 16 hours? Okay, I might just load up my Steam and see what it says. But what do you think you're at, Jamie?
I'm probably close to 40.
Okay. I think I'm probably about in between the two of you, actually. So,
Good commitment, Jam. Good commitment.
well,
My weekend was, I wrote off everything else.
yeah. Well, Jam,
I have a life.
You have hit endgame, essentially, haven't you, Jam?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
It is magical.
All right, well, should we sort of dive into some opening impressions? What's your first week of play been like? So, Jam, do you want to go first? What's yours been?
Okay. Well, I had an incentive in my household because my brother pretty much hit the level cap on day 2, almost on day 1. Yeah, we picked it up and dove straight in. I'm really enjoying it. It's a beautiful game. It's just gorgeous. The weather effects, the way they've styled the whole city, it really feels like everywhere you go, it's just people have had to pick up and leave, and then everyone's fighting over the carcass. It's incredible. So it's, post-viral apocalypse New York, and I've seen some photos of comparisons in certain locations in the game to real New York, and they have done an amazing job of recreating Manhattan. It's just, I love it. It's beautiful. I love the RPG system, the leveling, and the way you can play with your gear. You can craft new gear if you get the right blueprints. You can mod that gear if it's got the right sockets. And then you can add little attachments. There's some weapon skins, which I'm a little iffy on at the moment. There's so many things to see and do. I feel like I still don't really know a lot, even though I've hit level 30.
I was about to say, Jesus.
Yeah.
I know.
So, at level 30, how much content have you missed, do you think?
Being somewhat of a completionist, I've done quite a bit. So there's about 20-ish zones, I think, maybe a little less, outside of the Dark Zone. And the Dark Zone is where you go full-on PvP. Anyone you encounter can kill you. outside of that, it's more of a PvE. You can solo most of it. You can group up for all of it if you want. People basically join your hosted session so they can see your progress and help you with your progress. But it can also count towards their progress if they haven't done the bits and pieces that you end up doing together.
Yep.
And I've pretty much cleaned out 100% all but 4 of the zones outside the dark zone. That's collectibles and everything.
Oh, nice.
I've done all the main missions. I just have a whole bunch of side missions and encounters and little fun bits and pieces and collectibles in the top, I think it's the top 4 leveled zones in the single player experience. And it's really interesting. Oh,
Great commitment to the podcast, Jam.
I'm actually, even though the plot itself isn't crucial to enjoying the game on its like mechanical merits alone is very fun and enjoyable. You encounter all of these little tidbits that contribute towards the storyline throughout the whole thing. You can locate, for example, what they call an echo, where your device, your character's device, is able to pull all sorts of feeds from recorded phone footage, security cameras, and whatnot to recreate a small scene around you. That's always contributing to the plot itself. So you see these little snippets of chaos throughout the city where people are trying to cope with what's going on and deal with other people who aren't handling it well. And some of it's just really, the impact is quite amazing. Even though it's a memory, you're not witnessing it firsthand, but you can see the aftermath. Like in the echo, you might see this shrouded figure getting hit by a car. And then when the echo fades away, you can see the result, of the car that's there, that sort of thing. Or a body lying where they would have ended up. It just makes it feel really dramatic and chaotic. It's interesting.
Might jump in next, Ollie, if you don't mind. You can sort of fill in the gaps.
I'll allow it this one time.
So one of the things that I've realised sort of playing this game over the first week is I can draw a lot of comparisons to a bunch of other games that people will probably know reasonably well. So the first and foremost, it is pretty much a cover shooter. That's kind of the biggest aspect of the game. So you're running around, you're hugging cover, trying to move around and get the best vantage point on your enemies and the mobs that you're facing. It's not just a case of walk in like a human tank and soak everything up and deal out death from a distance. You really need to be tactical about what you're doing. So there's a lot of moves and things you can use, like you can combat roll behind obstacles and out of the path of machine gun bullets, and you can set up ambush points and kill zones where you're basically lobbing grenades into a highly packed area or setting up gun turrets and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. Those sorts of mechanics I actually found were really similar to the Mass Effect trilogy. So in terms of a cover shooter, it's kind of very similar to, particularly Mass Effect 2 I found, where you sort of run and gun and you can change abilities and use some of your what are the powers called in Mass Effect? Jam, help me out. The bionics, yeah. And that sort of thing, taking the place of some of your other abilities. And the way that the character movement and the gunplay is done, there's even aspects of Grand Theft Auto 5 in there a little bit, I think, with the way that works. I generally like it quite a bit. I do think that it would be significantly easier on PC than console for those reasons, because being able to aim quickly with the mouse definitely is an advantage in this game. Big advantage. But I like the tactical nature of that a lot. I think it's really, really cool. The only thing I don't like about the combat in that way is that the nature of the enemies that you fight, the enemies can do some dumb shit. Like the AI is mostly pretty good, and different groups that you come across do behave differently in some ways. Like one of the groups that you fight later on in the game, the Rikers, which are basically a whole bunch of escaped inmates from Rikers Island, they start to feature weapons like shotguns a lot more predominantly in their groups. And so you end up having quite a few of them sort of flanking you and trying to get up close and unloading rather than and using a lot of snipers and that sort of thing. So you're often fighting an attack on two fronts, whereas some of the other groups are a little bit more random and haphazard. But they do some weird things sometimes. Like, there's been multiple occasions where I've been fighting a mob in the street, and one of the guys has decided it's a great idea just to climb up on top of a bus and try and shoot you from standing on top of a vehicle when he's in plain view of everything. And, of course, you can just gun him off pretty easily. So I don't quite know what's going on with that.
I think it's the AI prioritizing height advantage. I think that's what people have been saying, like, because it goes high ground is good. I should get high ground.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That could definitely be it. Yeah, so it's good. But like other sort of aspects of the game, I think that that stuff that you were just talking about, Jan, with the echoes and being able to see sort of previous crime scenes and sort of have them recreated in like a holographic kind of view. For the sake of advancing plot points and, being a quest mechanic where you actually need to investigate areas and crime scenes and that sort of thing, immediately reminded me of the stuff that you get in the Arkham series, the Batman Arkham series. Yeah. Which, again, I think Arkham probably does it a bit better because there's a little bit more granularity in how you use that data. Like, you actually move around and you have to look further and try and piece elements of it together to sort of create a picture. Whereas with The Division, it's probably more there for a narrative sort of sense. Yeah. But no, it's still really cool. I love that sort of thing. And I think that one of the things that The Division does really well with a lot of those sort of bonus bits and pieces dropped around the landscape, like particularly the cell phone recordings and you find hidden voicemail messages and files and things around the place, is it does a really good job of padding out the narrative in ways that doesn't need to be shoehorned into actual cutscenes or actual sort of encounters with live characters in the game. Because some of this stuff just wouldn't make sense to insert into those conversations, but it's necessary to create the larger sense of the world and what's actually gone down in New York without having to see it firsthand. It makes
the characters in play too.
Yeah, exactly.
It gives you some important bits and pieces, some background, some motives and reasoning for some of their actions and their eventual behaviour. So,
it sets
really
up a timeline really well and makes the whole game seem much bigger than it actually is. I think it succeeds in doing that quite well. So, graphically the game's freaking gorgeous. Just, I can't get over how pretty it is, and it's varied as well. Like, I don't see very much cut and pasted art assets at all, like particularly inside the main story mission areas. Like, there's some absolutely like jaw-droppingly horrifying scenes that you find, like mass sort of grave sites of corpses wrapped up in body bags and even sort of, people who have been tortured and hung upside down. And, there's a mission that Ollie and I were doing the other night where we were basically trying to rescue a bunch of people that had been captured by those Rikers criminals. And they'd gotten hold of them and done some truly sadistic shit to them. and there was some, pretty grisly kitchen, horror torture scenes where people were left with, things impaled in them everywhere. And it just, it was nuts. So that's something. It's definitely not a kid's game in that respect. That's for sure. Yeah.
Have you noticed the extraordinary weather effects?
Oh man, one of the things that blew me away is the fire in this game.
The fire is stunning.
Yeah, like the embers glowing on the ground and the way the fire spreads and sort of dies out and behaves exactly as you would imagine it to behave. Rather than it just being sort of, like a rolling animation of a flame. I think it's beautiful. I think the fire and the snow just are nuts good.
The snow. Yeah. I absolutely fell in love with it when I noticed. I was in a very large main street and there were some really fast eddies. There was a bit of a breeze, so the snowflakes were swirling and doing their thing all over the place. And I had my character just looking up at it as I walked and rounded a corner thinking, this is so pretty. It looks like it's moving so naturally. As I rounded the corner, I went into a smaller street with townhouses side to side down the whole length, so it was a lot narrower and more enclosed, and it all slowed down, and it just started drifting more than eddying about in fast currents, and it changed. The nature of it, just the way it moved, changed based on where I was located. I was fascinated.
Yeah, even on really low graphic settings, the game is still gorgeous as hell, so...
And in really high graphic settings, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Humble brag.
Yeah. So how's your experience so far, Ollie?
Mine's been pretty good. I agree with you completely on now that you've mentioned it, the Mass Effect aspect. The gameplay is essentially Mass Effect meets Destiny.
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's not a negative, in my opinion. That's completely fine.
I think the Destiny elements are essentially just the live, ongoing sort of MMO style environment as a shooter that it's got. Yeah.
I would say Borderlands, but Borderlands is a bit more cartoony, essentially. But it's the same sort of deal.
Yeah.
My biggest issue, and it's due to one of the biggest strengths in the game. So the game, as we've mentioned, looks ridiculous. Like, it is brilliantly gorgeous looking game. With realistic weather, great cover mechanics. You can shoot out chunks of concrete and then shoot through those chunks of concrete in-game. Like, it's got great things like that. But then the enemies, by the nature of the game, are bullet sponges.
Yeah.
And that just drops me out of the whole immersion somewhat. Like, the gameplay is still fine. It just detracts a little bit from the game for me, because I'm there going, okay, I'm hugging cover. I've set this high vantage point. Everything looks ultra cool and amazing. And I've emptied 30 bullets into that guy's head. And he's still just pounding away with a machine gun.
Yeah. Yeah, against some of the higher level enemies, it certainly does feel like you're in a firefight with an airsoft gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind so much that because there's the 3 flavors of enemies, where there's the normal dudes, the elites, and then the named guys. And the normal dudes they will drop in 3 to 4 rounds if you're appropriately leveled and geared. And that's fine. I have no issue with that. But when it's just Bullet Sponge McGee, then, yeah, I don't like that aspect. I still enjoy the game, don't get me wrong, but that's like a glaring thing for me.
At least hit locations on bodies do play a significant part in the game.
Headshots are quite important.
Yeah, not just headshots. Like, you can literally shoot a dude's arm when he's throwing a grenade, and he'll drop it on himself.
I like shooting their fuel tank.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
or
fun.
the grenadier pouches.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Imogen, just for your info, there's a group in this game called the Cleaners, which are basically motivated by trying to clean up the virus outbreak in the city by purging everything with fire. So they walk around with flamethrowers, and one of the funnest things to do is to shoot the gas canisters on their back until they explode. It is awesome.
Oh dear, I can see why you might enjoy that.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
My only other detraction is very similar to the number crunch thing, is you're using realistic weapons. So you have your AUG Paras, your MP5s, MP7s, your AKs. My military gun porn knowledge is coming to the fore here, and I apologise. But I'll have a level 1 M4, and in real life that's an M4, it shoots a bullet. And I'll have my level 20 M4, and it does literally 20 times the damage for the same bullet. And again, it's that jarringness. Like, Destiny I didn't mind, because nothing in Destiny is realistic. It's all sci-fi opera. Borderlands is cartoony and wacky, so it's all fine. But when you're combining super realistic environment and some super realistic tactical elements with that, the amalgamation of it just doesn't really sit 100% with me.
It's challenging though. I mean, how would you do it differently for this setting?
Here's the thing. For an MMO, it has to be done that way.
Yeah.
I can't think of another way to do it as an MMO. If this were a single-player game, it would annoy the shit out of me, and I wouldn't play it.
Yeah. Okay.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
Because I'd be there going, no, this is bollocks. Because it's a co-op game and it is an MMO, I go, okay, concessions, you have to run it like this, so you actually have level progression. So I'm willing to forgive that. And don't get me wrong, I am really enjoying this game. I wouldn't drop 16 hours into it if I hated it and buy the season pass and all that sort of crap. So I am really enjoying this game. I really like the missions. The missions so far have been nice and varied. They have just been fetch 15 bear butts and retrieve 5 gold rings from fish sphincters and stuff like that.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
They were, and themed. So I like that the missions actually feel like, okay, we're going to get this target and then extract this individual, which it is just standard quests, but they've dressed them nicely so that they don't feel like standard MMO quests.
Yeah.
And I like that aspect.
Some
like
of the missions are like grabbing more data about what's going on in the city too, which is good. Yeah.
And the multi-part ones are fantastic, because you'll do part 1, and then on your way to part 2, you'll encounter another side mission that you can take care of really quickly. So it feels like you're progressing, but also stopping to help, and it feels like you're doing exactly what the game's intending, which is, just be this disaster response.
Yeah.
And that's
everybody.
what I really like. The world feels very lived in.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a world that's just been plonked down for you to rampage along in, a la GTA. It feels like a world that's actually people exist here, because there are people wandering around that you have to help. There's a dog doing a pee on a car. Look at me, jump on a bonnet, the bonnet closes.
And the
this guy's
Christmas
been executed over
decorations?
here. Yeah.
I love how it's been timed because the idea is this virus broke out on
was
Black Friday,
yeah.
around Thanksgiving. The whole city has been decked out in Christmas gear, and you can see everyone had been working up towards all of their Christmas celebrations, and now it's in tatters. You've got these remnants of festivity everywhere, but it's just been trashed. It's so tragically messed up. It just makes it feel that much more of a disaster. It's supposed to be such a happy time.
And that's
very
one thing
well
I
done.
like. The scale of it is really, really nicely done. So there is the mass graves and the bodies just in the street because you physically couldn't clean up that many bodies with that few resources. Like, they've actually put a decent bit of thought of the logistics of the situation, which I like.
And it's quite three-dimensional too. There are so many
Yes.
buildings and rooftops that you can get to in twisty ways. You can get turned around, go back and forth. Oh, it's incredible.
It does remind me a lot of, and I keep saying this to everyone that I freaking talk to because why not? And some listeners may get this. It reminds me a lot of a comic book called DMZ, which is essentially New
Yeah.
York becomes the center of a American Civil War and becomes a DMZ. And yeah, it reminds me a lot of that, the way they've set up New York as sort of mini factions and empires everywhere.
Okay.
That's cool. I like it.
I have one other thing I wanted to add, and this is just an awesome thing, an image, and I think you'll appreciate this. I was going through a mission through a fancy-looking office. There's fancy Ming vases on the shelves everywhere. And then I saw a babushka doll. This big babushka doll
yes.
sitting on a shelf. Oh my god. I went, huh. And I got my pistol out and I shot it. And the babushka doll cracked open. And there was another babushka doll, smaller one, inside. And I did it again, and there was a smaller one. There were like 4 different little babushka dolls. It was amazing. The attention to detail is extraordinary, and I lost my shit. And I was like, guys, you know, there's all these enemies over there. Doesn't matter. Come look at this.
Yeah,
It
you
was
know
the
someone's put
best.
thought into that.
Oh, so much love.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is really cool. Apparently, some of the graffiti in the city was actually done by sort of real graffiti artists that are operating in New York as well.
It looks
I've
good.
heard. So, yeah, that's really, really cool. I mean, so the brief overview of the game progression, I guess, is that you've got your main story missions, of which James said there's about 20 of them. You've also got side missions, of which in each zone there's generally about 3 or 4, I think. And they pretty much just give you specs for different weapon blueprints that you can build and experience. And, you know, give you some items. And then you've also got encounters, which are kind of like, these feed into one of the coolest aspects of the entire game, which is that you actually have like a home base of operations, which is in a sort of repurposed old post office. And you're basically trying to build up your base operations to be, you know, working in, you know, good order again so you can support the retaking of the city. And that means building up 3 different wings of your base. There's the medical wing, you've got the security wing, and then you've got essentially the tech wing. What's it called, Ollie? It's not tech, though. They've given it a different name. Is it tech?
It's tech,
okay.
yeah.
Tech, security, and medical wing.
All right, cool. So basically each mission that you do in the main game sort of feeds into points to upgrade each of those different aspects. And by upgrading the wings, you basically upgrade your character because it gives you access to new abilities and new sort of traits and things like that. Talents and perks, that's the one.
And equipment.
Yeah. So it's really cool, and a lot of the high level stuff is gated by how advanced your base has actually come along. So in addition to the missions dotted around the map, there's also small encounters, which are kind of like, you know, a lot of the time they're really simple. They can be just like a firefight with a gang. They can be, you know, find a civilian that's been trapped inside a building and let them out. It can be, you know, restore power to something, or
Get the supply drop.
reactivate the water sort of, you know, pipes, that sort of stuff, and it just gives you points towards your base building, and so you can get your base up and running. So when you are multiplaying, your base is basically instanced to just yourself. It's not something that's shared between all players. It's just relating to you. But all of the sort of safe house zones, which are kind of like your bases in each region, they are one of the shared areas of the game where you can actually come across other players. Whereas when you're out in the main city itself, you will never come across anyone else unless you actually teamed up to do matchmaking with them, which is interesting. Unless you're in the dark zone, of course, which is kind of where all the PvP happens, and that's where you'll be on a server with a bunch of other players. So I just want to talk about the matchmaking for a second because I think it's a really, really awesome aspect of the game. And Ollie, you said you didn't know much about it. So, I mean, obviously, when you play the Division, you actually have a Uplay account. So this is sort of the community add-on aspect that you've got, which tracks your character profile and your game account with the server and that sort of thing. Now, you can have your friends on your Uplay account and actually sort of send them invites to join their game or they join your game. But you can also matchmake with randoms in the map as well. And you can matchmake just to roam around. You can matchmake out front of a mission or an encounter or anything like that. That's usually, it's just the main missions. You've got an option to actually matchmake to sort of complete the mission and go through it with up to 3 additional sort of players as well. Now, the missions do scale in difficulty. So if you go in with a full team of 4, then it's going to get a lot harder. I've tended to find, and I don't know what your impressions are, guys, that the sweet spot for difficulty tends to be around 2. So if you go in with one other person, it doesn't ramp up the difficulty too much. But if you go in with 3 or 4, it gets real hard real fast. So depending on
I love 4.
Yeah, 4 is great fun, don't get me wrong. But you will be in a massive gunfight with bullet sponges galore at some point. So, yeah. I mean, it's fun to be able to do that. And the matchmaking's smooth as. Like, it's one of those things that's been implemented really poorly in other games of its like. Destiny is a classic example for this. The matchmaking in Destiny is woeful compared to this. It's been smooth as every time I've used it in the Division, which makes for a really fun multiplayer aspect to the game. And it's true that, there's no true multiplayer when you're just roaming the city. It can feel a little lonely at times, but it's very easy to get around it by just, matchmaking to, hook up with some people just to roam. It's entirely down to the players. So should we talk about longevity of play potential and what end game content and stuff there is to play with? Jem, I'm mostly interested in your take on this because you're actually in it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I've only recently reached end game stuff, but the Dark Zone is amazing. Oh, it's so tense. I've only been in the first. That's also split up by level and it's instanced.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start at the south end of the Dark Zone, you've got the easy stuff, which means that the NPCs in the different factions that are fighting are going to be a lower level. And then as you travel north, it gets harder and harder so that the NPCs that you're dealing with get more and more difficult. Then that whole red region is also instanced to different brackets of player level. So I think it's, is it 1 to 12?
I think it's 1 to 13, the first one.
1
It's
to,
quite
1 to
a large
13,
one.
and then 14 to 19, and then 20 to whatever. So that as you walk in, even though you've got all of those progressively more difficult things, you'll only see people within, 5 or so levels of you, unless you're really, really low. Which is really good because it's PvP. By default, you're just an ordinary Division agent in there and you're all friendly. But if someone starts attacking another player and does enough damage, they go rogue. They go red. They pop up as a little skull on the screen and they become a target for absolutely everyone else that's in that vicinity because when you die in that Dark Zone, there's a whole bunch of stuff that can happen. So while you're there, any items that you collect are essentially contaminated.
Yeah. So the whole Dark Zone is basically the region of the city where the authorities have gone. This is the point of where the disease sort of impacted the most first, and everything here is really screwed up. So fuck this, we're out.
Yeah, you can't control the factions in there. They put up a big fence and they said, go in at your own peril.
Yeah.
We're not going to get involved. So there's very fantastic item drops in there. That's one of the huge draws of it. That's where you get some very good gear, but it's contaminated, and you can only carry so much contaminated equipment on you at any given time. So you have a separate pouch when you go in, and I think it starts at 5 items max that it can carry. And once you've decided you've got enough or your pouch is full, you have to go to an extraction point to get it out and decontaminate it before you can go collect it at your base and equip it. And that involves shooting up a flare to call a helicopter, which can take 1.5 minutes to arrive. While that's happening, everyone in the vicinity gets notified that you've called for an extraction. So if they're thinking of going rogue or if they want to extract themselves, they'll just start converging. You also have a different currency in the Dark Zone that you collect as you go through it. And you have little Dark Zone keys that unlock special chests in the Dark Zone. All of this stuff, if you die in the Dark Zone, can be looted off you. So that's like a massive consequence. Trouble is, the second you go rogue, everyone turns on you. You get hunted down like a dog. And you can lose, because you have a separate Dark Zone level as well. Your punishment is you lose a greater amount of experience towards that level and all of your gear too. So at the moment, the risk versus reward, it's just not really worth it to go rogue in the Dark Zone, but people are doing it accidentally. And people are trying to deliberately make others do it accidentally by diving into their grenades or their bullet parts.
They've actually fixed some of that apparently in the latest patch.
Oh, really?
Most of the turrets.
The first time I went in there, I was teamed up just with my brother, and he was running a little ways ahead of me, and this other little guy wandered across the intersection between us, and I don't know, I think he must have panicked, and he shot him a couple of times, which made him go rogue, because then he paused. Then he must have thought, oh shit, I've done it now, and just kept unloading into him, not realizing that I was, 5 meters behind him with my gun out. So I killed him. He didn't drop anything, but it's just, I don't think, I've seen one group of people, a group of 4, just doing it for fun, going around, taking on anybody who came along. They were very well geared for it, but I don't see payoff is good enough at the moment to lure enough people into going rogue.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, it's one of the things that's been called out fairly loudly online by a lot of, people playing the end game content and providing feedback. They'll definitely address it. They have to.
Yeah, it's only week 1. That's the thing. The balancing. Exactly. Also, it probably may be highly dependent on how many people have reached endgame at this stage, because if that Dark Zone gets busier and busier, sometimes when we went on, we would just be looping, killing, NPCs and bosses and looting chests and hardly encounter anyone. It made it very easy for us to grab the loot we were after and gear up with better stuff. Other times, there's just people constantly getting to the boss before you, which means you don't get a loot drop. Getting to the chest before you, which means, it's on a timer. It's not going to be available for X number of minutes. I'm not even sure how long.
Yeah.
And that makes it much more difficult, which I think would encourage more people to turn rogue, because if the other people in that session are the ones carrying the equipment and you have a chance of getting it, there's more of an incentive if that's a harder thing to get.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see how they address it and balance it out.
I think it is hands down like one of my favourite aspects of the game. The whole nature of the Dark Zone, even though they've got a bit of work to do on it, is just so freaking cool.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so tense.
Tension, and it really is one of those areas where you're encouraged to go around in groups and you want to work together, because it's definitely a, united you stand, divided you fall kind of situation.
And you have to be so careful. You don't want to be the one that accidentally trips up the whole group and turns everyone rogue because of the wrong stray bullet. So you're focusing on shooting the exact right NPC you're supposed to be shooting, and at the same time be completely aware of your surroundings, not just so that you don't accidentally shoot another player, but so that you can tell if they're around and they're about to turn rogue on you. You just have this sense of victory and achievement every time you extract a full load of gear, because it's
not to
just
mention
wonderful.
all of the high-level NPCs that you've got to worry about in there as well.
Yeah, they can be vicious. We've still, even at level 30, we've only been in the first half maybe of the Dark Zone. I haven't even seen the level 30 area. I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. You just get smoked so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
So, Ollie, have you actually been into the Dark Zone yet? Like, I've been in briefly, and I'm level 4 Dark Zone, I think. So,
I have not even touched it.
Yeah, probably wise at this point. So, in terms
I definitely want to go in there with more than just me.
Yeah, good call. Well, maybe I'll hit it up with you soon. Then we can jump in.
Possibly after this.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The other endgame content that's available, there are 3 daily missions, and one, if you do it on the hardest mode, which is challenging mode, you'll get some extra loot for it. So I found so far in the last couple of days we've been getting together pretty much every evening to try and smash those out, and they are on challenging difficulty, those main missions, so incredibly difficult. But the four of us that have hit level 30, we're starting to sound just like one of those ads now. where you hear, oh yeah, that's bullshit. People don't talk like that in video games. We are being so tactical. We're communicating so efficiently because you have to be on the ball constantly. Yeah. Heavy's coming up the stairs. You circle around here. You chuck that heel down so that I can support, and someone hold off that sniper. It's incredible. It's so challenging, but so rewarding when you get through it. We managed to get through one with only 3 players today. That was awesome. Oh, nice. I love it.
So I checked my Steam account just before, and I'm currently at 34 hours in, and I'm level 23 in game. So that's probably slightly on the low side for what most people would be at that amount of time, because I've spent a fair bit just dicking around and exploring. But I think you're probably looking at, to hit end game content around the 40-hour mark-ish. Is that about what you took?
Unless you're getting sort of power leveled by your friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think 25 is probably what I would have made it in, because that would have been ignoring side quests and stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, I think the game's going to have a lot of legs if they sort the Dark Zone stuff out, and they do have a really, really good slate of planned DLC and expansions coming as well. So the season pass basically gives you access to all of this. There's 3 DLC that is already on the plan. First one's going to be called Underground, which is basically allowing you to explore new territory in the underworld, sort of around the subway tunnels and sewers and that sort of stuff, which sounds pretty cool. Second expansion is going to be called Survival, which will allow you to do like a new hostile environment mode, which could be interesting. And Last Stand is the third big one, which is going to be very, very themed on sort of PvP stuff by the look of it. And they've got a couple of other sort of updates that are coming as free DLC in the meantime as well, with extra outfits and weapons and expansions for Dark Zone enemies and that sort of stuff. So there's heaps on the plan. It's going to be going for a little while, even with just the first lot of stuff they've announced. So sounds pretty good.
And the outfits are awesome. Imogen, I dress up differently every day.
Of course you do. I wouldn't want you to do anything else, Jan.
Yay!
Nice. Oh, well, we should probably put a bow on that one then. General thoughts just to close? I'm a huge fan of The Division. I was tentative at first. I'm glad I picked it up because, holy crap, I'm enjoying this game a lot. So, yeah.
It is, as they say, a good game.
Damn straight.
Good game. GG.
I like.
Sweet. All right, so what's on the plan for this week, guys? More Divisioning? Anyone actually going to try and play anything other than that besides Imogen?
Well, Helldivers. We have to play Helldivers.
Yes, we do.
It's our game of the month, and I only just installed it today.
All right, cool. I'll make a pact to play that with you before the week is out. Yep.
I'm super excited to play that game.
Yeah. Sweet.
Welcome to my world, people.
Well, you're probably, to be fair, super excited to play game.
Any game. Yeah, any game, full stop. Super excited.
Yeah. All right, well, let's do ourselves a favour then and hop off and go and do that. And maybe you can actually try and cram something in tonight, Imogen, before you go down to bed.
More
That's
studying.
disgusting.
Oh, Ollie.
Oh, man.
Ending on a low note. Woo!
Nice. All right. Well, if you want to hit us up and find out more about our Division antics, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/partyloaded. We're also on Twitter at partyloadedshow. If you enjoy the show, please send us some feedback and drop us an email at mail@partyloaded. And, of course, you can check us out on Steam, and that's pretty much it. So let's sign off, and we'll see you in another week when we've actually put more bullets in more faces. That sounds like a good plan for the week, I think.
I don't want to do
Your
that.
face.
Can I not do that?
You could not do that.
Okay, thanks.
That's fine.
Put some bullets in glass mannequins.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good. Cool.
Super hot.
Bye,
Super
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, friends.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.